What I want to start off with is that there is a myth in Christianity. And it is real easy for Christians to fall into this myth, especially a church that's getting ready to do a restart and a re-beginning and all of that, especially when churches are doing a plant or starting a new church, etc. It is real easy to fall into this myth. And this myth is this. It says this, that you can change the city. The myth says that you can reach the city for Christ. That's what the myth says. And I know that's been kind of our focus for the past couple of weeks, has been, we're going to reach the city of Grand Rapids. But this is a great opportunity now for us to be able to step back and really zero in on what we need to be focusing on with that type of a statement. Because it really is a myth. You're not going to do it. It's not going to happen in this fallen world and this society. We're not going to be able to reach it like that. And here's why. Because a city, especially in America, a city in America is a lot like a country in another part of the world. Okay, within a city, what you have are neighborhoods. And each neighborhood is a different culture. Each neighborhood has a different culture that people will gravitate toward one area of a city or another for varying reasons. And you'll find within those neighborhoods is a type of community. And if you say you're going to reach the city, what tends to happen is you take a big, giant, one-step approach to aim it at the whole city. You do a lot of work with zero results, asking yourself what went wrong. And what churches need to do is to appreciate and to take advantage of the understanding of the varying cultures within neighborhoods. Okay, in fact, when missionaries, it's weird. A lot of Southern Baptist churches get this when they go overseas, but they don't get it for northern mentality of urban areas. It's very interesting. Missionaries will go overseas, and they'll tend to not focus on one country. They don't say, we're going to go out and reach Zimbabwe. They don't say that. You know what they do say? They say they're going to Zimbabwe to reach a particular people group. We're going out to Zimbabwe to reach this tribe. And that's what they focus on, is that tribe. And they zero in on one particular collection of that one tribe. So it's not even a city in Zimbabwe. It is literally, we're going to Zimbabwe. We're going to go to this area of the city for our base camp. But then we're going to go from there out to this one particular tribe. And we're going to hit that tribe. And we're going to do all our research, all our energy, all our focus upon that tribe. Now, is Grand Rapids one giant tribe? No. We got hundreds of thousands of people making up of thousands, if not tens of thousands of tribes. All of them very, very distinct. All of them very unique. And so it's like, look at Grand Rapids. You can't say you're going to reach the city. That's like saying you're going to reach the whole country of Zimbabwe. Instead, we got to look at the city and say, okay, here's this city. It's Grand Rapids. We're like a country to ourselves. I'm not talking anarchy or going to join the NRA or anything. Just that we're like a country and that we have a whole bunch of tribes within our metro Grand Rapids area. Just thousands of tribes. And the question is going to be, is how are we going to reach the different tribes within this city? Because each of us live in different neighborhoods. That means that each of us have access and the opportunity to reach those tribes. Okay, so a lot of people, they'll say, well, I feel weird because the church is at this location. I live at this location. How can I do ministry for that church when I live way over here? And the answer is, that's how it should be. That's how it should be. That you do ministry where you're at, because you're living in an area that's a tribe. And you can actually impact that tribe in that area. That's what it's about. It's not about impacting the tribes where the church is just located. It's about impacting the tribes where you're at. So we're going to be seeing that today. And we're going to try to see how this can really be unpacked well. So what we're at so far is that Nehemiah has left the area of Persia. He's going back to Israel. He's bringing a group of people with him, and they are working on rebuilding the gates and the walls that are surrounding Jerusalem and the temple. Okay, so they're rebuilding all of that. So Nehemiah goes from, as he's inspecting first, before they start building, he inspects. He gets on his animal, and he goes at night, and he's riding. I wouldn't necessarily recommend riding an animal at night in downtown Grand Rapids. So don't follow this to the letter. But I would recommend that we drive around various areas within Grand Rapids and we look at the city. We walk around our neighborhoods and we look at our neighborhood and we inspect. How are things broken? How are things hurting? How are things burned down? And how are things destroyed or dilapidated? And what does it look like to try to rebuild? And what would it look like to try to be a redemptive agent of healing in the lives of the people? In fact, you could look around at your houses, look around the neighbors and see, do they have swing sets? If they have swing sets and little toys, that means they have kids. And what does that mean for parents who have kids? How is their life like? When do you see cars coming in and out of the driveway? Who's working late? Who's staying home? Are there babysitters involved? You can really make a lot of observations of your neighborhood just by looking at certain little signs. That's what Nehemiah is doing. That's what he did in chapter 2. He walks around all the gates, he rides around some, walks through others, and he's looking at it, inspecting it, asking, what's it going to take? What's it going to take to reach this area? What's it going to take to rebuild and restore? What is it going to take to do that? What type of organization? What type of strategy? What type of compassion? What type of work? What type of laborers? What leaders do we need? What training do we need? What equipping do we need? What can we do in each of these areas? So he walks around and he goes to like the Valley Gate and he goes to the Jekyll's Well, and then which would be like going from Granville up in through Wyoming, and then he goes over to the Dung Gate. That'd be like West Side Grand Rapids. Okay, the Dung Gate is kind of considered where the Dung Gate is where all the waste went. It was when the daughters emptied the morning jar. Okay, that's what the oldest daughter would do. Those who were the oldest daughters, they were responsible for the family jar. They didn't have toilets or plumbing, and so they had the family jar, and it would collect it through the course of a day. And then at one point, the oldest daughter would grab the jar, go over by the Dung Gate, and dump. That's where it would go. Okay, that's where the trash went. It was the bad place. Okay, it really was the stinky place. And so Nehemiah goes through there and he's asking all these questions about how are we going to reach this? How am I going to instill passion amongst the other people, amongst the Israelites, amongst the nobles, amongst the priests and the Levites to actually work toward restoration? How are we going to do this? And that's the question for churches today. How are we going to ignite or reignite for some a passion for reaching people within the various neighborhoods that makes up our city? What's it going to take? Because one of my fears is that people have a tendency, and many churches have a tendency, and many Christians within those churches, that they treat going to church like how my daughter treats playing house. And it's been fun. I love playing house with my daughter. It's very, very interesting. She has this building that she sits down at, and she'll sing, usually Let It Go from Frozen, or she'll make up a song. The other day, she was singing about how mushrooms turn people brown, and I don't quite know where that came from, but she was singing. She's like, mushrooms turn you brown. That's what she was singing. I'm just like, really? I'm eating a pizza, and she goes, Daddy, watch out for the mushrooms. They'll turn you brown. I'm like, oh, well. But then I realized she was eating M&Ms this morning, and my wife said, Ziva, be careful. If you hold on to that too long, you'll turn your hand green. And then I started getting it. Oh, mushrooms are brown colored. I get it now. But so here's how she plays. She has her building. She sits down. She plays, and she'll sing a song, and she'll have things happen, and she'll do stories and adventures and all these things. You know, every now and then I'll hear, "Help! Someone put me in the oven." And I did. You can't get out. That's your dungeon. Ah ha ha! And I seriously, and I'm hearing all these things. I'm like, "Hey Ziva, where's Olaf?" She goes, "I put him in the toilet." I look over, and there's a toilet with a little snowman sticking up out of it. And I'm like, you know, so she's doing all these great, creative, weird, psychopathic things, okay? She's having a great time with it. But here's the thing. Is she really creating a family and a universe? Is she really making a difference in life? Or is she just pretending? See, it's pretend. It's pretend. It's enjoyable. I love it. I want to watch it and get more of it, and I try to use the pretending as a teachable moment, whatnot, if one teaches another. Like she had these one Barbies that could never go to church because they were bad Barbies. And so they couldn't go to church. And so it became a moment where my mom and I would eventually tell her, well, maybe we ought to treat them with kindness and tell them about Jesus and bring them to church. And we tried to use it as a teachable moment. But in the end, it's just pretend. In the end, it's just pretend. And I fear many churches and many Christians in churches are doing that. They come to church and they play church, where they sit down and they have a building that they meet in, they sing their songs, and then they go home, and there's no difference. Nothing has changed. There's no focus, there's no goal, there's no direction, and it's just Monday through Saturday is the same old as the week before, and you have years of that, where there isn't really any difference. There's none of that soldier for Christ mentality, workers for the kingdom mentality, just this playing church like kids play house. And so I would love to see us grow a passion that as Nehemiah, here's the thing, if you look at chapter 2 briefly, you'll see that when he describes the gates to the leaders and the nobles, he says that the gates, it's interesting, walls and gates are burned down. But he specifically focuses on the gates. He says the gates are broken. The gates are burned down. Here's what's interesting. Walls defend a city. Gates give people access to the city. And these gates were the ones that were open up and give people access to the temple, which means then that the gates gave people access to God. And they're broken down. So you got a physical destruction of temples and gates, but you also have the gates being burned. That focus is that the people do not have this access to God. We can build up walls, but we need access into the temple to worship. And so we can look at our homes and ask ourselves, are we on mission to God? Are we actually inviting people to God? Or are our gates burned down? That we're not inviting anyone to anything, but just another day. So that's what I'm hoping, is that we will, as a church, develop a burning passion to reach, rebuild, and restore the brokenness that is within our homes and the brokenness that is within the homes of our neighbors and in the neighborhoods that we live in. That we can reach, rebuild, and restore and be agents of redemptive healing in those ways and those places, wherever you are. That's your mission field. Would love to be able to say that as a pastor, I could just send you out, each of you as a missionary, to your homes, your neighborhood, your apartment complex, your job, your whatever, that you are sent out as a missionary to reach those areas. So with that in mind, that brings us then to chapter 3. And as we look at chapter 3, I need to share with you just a couple of quick statistics about this chapter so we can appreciate what it is. There are 7 different neighborhoods, if you will, 7 different gates that Nehemiah talks about here. There are 38 names that are listed, but there's a whole lot more than 38 people that are actually at work. In fact, a lot of the names, Nehemiah will just list one person's name, and then right after we'll say, then beyond them or next to them is. But it's one person, but they're referred to in the plural, as if this one person is the supervisor over various other people. Or this one person is the one that's kind of the chairperson of an entire team. Or it's them and their family and workers and servants that they have, etc. So each name that you see, don't just think it's just that person. They are referred to in the plural. So therefore it's them and everyone with them. Okay, so when you see 38 names, what we're also going to be seeing are 42 different teams. Okay, there's going to be 42 different teams. And here's what's neat. Nobody worked alone. Everyone worked as a team. So the question we get to ask ourselves is, and I want you to think this in your heads for a moment. Do you rather work solo or as a group? Would you rather work solo or as a group? And I can be honest with you, I've had some bad group experiences in school. right? Where I get an assignment and it's a group activity and it's horrible, that I felt like I was doing all the work, and there's always somebody who did no work and they just rode the grade on in, and it was terrible. And I used to tell myself, whenever the teacher said, okay, we're going to break up into teams, I'd go, oh man. First, I'm going to be the last to be picked because nobody wants to be on my team. And second, I'm going to get stuck with the losers that don't do any work. You know, and so we sometimes in our educative system have conditioned us to hate groups and to think that what we need to be is that executive, that in-charge person, that one lone warrior to go in and make a difference in things. And that is completely in the face of how the church is supposed to be. Because the church is supposed to be made up of groups. And we all live in groups and tribes. But out of that disliking and detest for groups, what we tend to have then is a home where we don't know our neighbors very well, and we just want to get in, shut the door, watch our TV, because we're just an island to ourselves. And the hope is that we can have enough good things and enough quality things and enough whatever that our island has the prettiest trees and the nicest coconuts, and we have a refrigerator with our popping food in it, and that's it. That's our castle. That's our empire, is our little four walls. And that's all we need, because we don't like groups. And that's, again, in the face and completely contradictory the way the Christian life is supposed to be lived, where we embrace people and we embrace groups and we work together. And so what I want to do is just help us to re-understand groups so that when we go in to read all of chapter 3, we can appreciate what's happening. So groups actually have dozens of advantages. I'm not going to share with you the 36, I think it was, advantages I've run across of why groups are just phenomenal things. I just want to share with you 5. Okay, just real quick. I don't want to make a big point on this. I just want you to know these, jot them down real quick, and see these at play as we're going through the study of Nehemiah. The first one is the idea of efficiency, that more people can do more work at a better rate. Okay, and that really, really is the case. The only time that efficiency is lost within a group is if you have people that say, you have to do it my way only. I won't let you do it your way. You're not doing it right. My way's better and faster. And all this time is spent in quibbling, fighting. One person does it, another person redoes it, and on it goes. Then what you don't have is a group. You got a bunch of single people trying to do it singly, and they're at war with each other rather than fighting together. That's when you find groups not being efficient, and it's because it's not a group. Not a group at all. It's just a crowd of people. Okay, but when groups actually work together and they divide the tasks up and they delegate it and they really work as comrades, what you find is efficiency. Okay, another one that we find is what's called the experience of commonality. Experience of commonality. Many people believe that they are the only ones that are struggling with certain things in life. They're the only ones that feel a certain way. They're the only ones that have this hurt in this certain area of life. They're the only ones that had these types of parents, or this type of reaction to a holiday, or this type of moment in their life, or this type of boss, or these types of kids, and they feel like they're alone. And when you get a group together, and they really function as a group where they're instilling hope in each other, and they're really talking with each other and spurring each other on toward good works, and they're really becoming a group, what they tend to find out is that they're not alone in their experiences. They're not alone in their emotions. They're not alone in their feelings, and they're not alone in their struggles, that we all actually share. And other people have similar struggles and thoughts and feelings. A third advantage is a sense of belonging. After a while, when people are alone enough and they are isolated enough, they'll either go into this extreme hermetism, or they'll just end up finding some desire to want people somewhere. One of the reasons I believe that Grand Rapids is flourishing in the restaurant field is that people can at least go to a restaurant and feel like they're in a community. In a place where we're having economic struggles and businesses are closing and stores are leaving malls, restaurants are flourishing. And if we're having job issues and high unemployment rates, and if we're having a high cost of living and low pay, how are the restaurants flourishing? Because that's where people are putting their money in. To know that there's at least another personal contact taking place. Someone on the other side of the table, or there is a rise of people eating by themselves because they get waited on and they have a personal contact. So there's a sense of belonging that is within groups where people can feel part of a whole. There is this sense of commitment that is stronger in a group than ever by yourself. You can say that you're going to be committed to something and you're going to make a change in your life. Ever done this? You want to make a change in your life, then a month later you didn't do it? Like a New Year's resolution that never happened? Or like people that say, I'm going to go on a diet, and then they don't, or they do, and it becomes the seafood diet, right? They just see it and they eat it. Or they're like, I'm on the Krispy Kreme donut diet. That's what I'm on. Just whatever the case may be. If you make a commitment to a group and with a group, the commitment tends to be higher. The positive effect of peer pressure. And we always talk about peer pressure being so bad. And it is bad in some cases. Come on, you can do it. Smoke it. Come on. It's a banana peel. You'll love it. But I don't know. You're like, you smoke a banana peel? I can't even get mine rolled up. But it's positive as well. Peer pressure can be positive as well. When you have a group that's going to hold you accountable. So the research shows that motivation tends to be stronger to keep the commitment when made with a group. And then lastly, there's a larger variety of skill sets within a group. Who here is perfect? No one. Right? We learned that from the video at the beginning before the sermon started. Right? That no one is perfect. From Romans. Right? No one is perfect. All have sinned. All are falling short. No one can even be labeled as good. We do things well, but we're not good. Only God is good. Okay, so if we're by ourselves, we are limited in what we can do, limited in our abilities, limited in our skills. You get a group, and what you find is other people within the group will have strengths where your weaknesses are, and your strength is where their weaknesses are. And if you share strengths, awesome. You can pal that together and really have a strength and go for it. Okay, that's what you tend to find within a group. Well, here's what happens is that we run across problems that groups will face. I call them potato problems because I want us to avoid ministry spuds. Okay, and this is going to be kind of fun, but very, very serious. The first potato problem is technically called, on an educated level, totalitarian. Okay, totalitarian. What this is where a person has this desire for recognition, for significance, and they falsely think that their way is the only best way. And so they come in, they don't work as a group. Instead, they order everybody around as if they're the boss. Or called a dictator. See, potato. Come on, that's a good one. Okay, or a dictator. Okay, this is the people that work, they don't really work as a group, they work as dictators. The second potato problem that tends to happen within groups is what educatively speaking, it's called the miser groups. Okay, miser is just a fancy word that basically means lazy. Okay, within miser groups, what you have is where people want to be left alone, or they just kind of just leave off to the side and let the group do whatever they want, and they don't really participate. And in fact, they get anxiety and stress out over the very idea of doing anything, so therefore they do nothing. And they just get all stressed, and they get one task on their plate. They just get all, I got something to do. I'm stressed. I need a nap. They haven't even done anything yet. Okay, and so they really end up doing nothing. This category of misers also are the ones that would rather spend time with family or church family, being indoors, playing games, than getting out and reaching, rebuilding, and restoring. They're indoor. They don't want to go out to anyone. They just want their little castle, and that's it. They're lazy Christians. Or we can also call them spectators. Come on, these are fun. Called spectators. Then there's the third category, the last one. There's more than these. It's just three, just to kind of work with for right now. These are what we tend to find within Nehemiah chapter 3. I want you to notice this. You'll notice that some people are acting like dictators, some people are acting like spectators, and some people are acting like this third category. Technically speaking, they're called enemies. They're called enemies. Okay, they sabotage the ministry, either from the outside or from the inside. From the outside, not wanting the work to happen, or from the inside. They tend to be verbally abusive, or they try to word things in such a way and talk and share stories in such a way that allows everyone else to feel like they don't belong, like they're isolated, like they're different, like they're not part of this group. They're insignificant. They don't belong. Okay? And this category tends to be people who want to point out all the problems without ever trying to even reach toward a solution. And if a solution gets presented, all they want to do is shoot another problem at it, and that's all they want to do. They're enemies, or also known as commentators, or also known as agitators. Okay? Come on, these are gold right here. These really are. What, you guys not peeling well? That one gets it. Thank you. Okay, so these are the potato problems within groups that we want to try to avoid. Now, let's go ahead and kick in to Nehemiah chapter 3. This will be a little bit of long reading. A lot of names. Here we go. We're just going to do the whole thing in one sitting. Sound like fun? Sound like fun? Yeah. Oh, good. Good. Verse 1, Nehemiah chapter 3, Eliashib, the high priest, and his fellow priests began rebuilding the sheep gate. They dedicated it and installed its doors. After building the wall to the Tower of the 100 and the Tower of Hanel, they dedicated it. The men of Jericho built next to Eliashib, and next to them Zakur, son of Imri, built. The sons of Hassanah built the fish gate. They built it with beams and installed its doors, bolts, and bars. Next to them, Meremoth, son of Uriah, son of Hakaz, made repairs. Beside them, Meshullam, son of Berechiah, son of Mehezabel, made repairs. Next to them, Zadok, son of Bana, made repairs. Beside them, the Tekoites made repairs, but their nobles did not lift a finger to help their supervisors. Joiada, son of Pesha, and Meshullam, the son of Besadiah, repaired the old gate. They built it with beams and installed its doors, bolts, and bars. Next to them, the repairs were done by Melatiah, the Gibeonite, Jadon, the Meronothite, and the men of Gibeon and Mizpah, who were under the authority of the governor of the region west of the Euphrates River. After him, Uzziel, son of Hariah, the goldsmith, made repairs, and next to him, Hananiah, the son of the perfumer, made repairs. They restored Jerusalem as far as the broad wall. Next to them, Rephaiah, the son of Hur, made a ruler over half the district of Jerusalem, made repairs. After them, Jediah, the son of Haramoth, made repairs across from his house. Next to him, Hattush, the son of Hashabaniah, made repairs. Malchijah, son of Harim, and Hasub, son of Pahath Moab, made repairs to another section, as well as to the Tower of the Ovens. Beside him, Shallum, son of Helahash, ruler over half the district of Jerusalem, made repairs, he and his daughters. Hanun and the inhabitants of Zanoah repaired the valley gate. They rebuilt it and installed its doors, bolts, and bars, and repaired 500 yards of the wall to the dung gate. I guess they don't do dung gates. Malchijah, the son of Rechab, ruler over the district of Beth Hecherem, repaired the dung gate. He rebuilt it and installed its doors, bolts, and bars. Shallum, son of Kolhoseh, ruler over the district of Mizpah, repaired the fountain gate. He rebuilt it and roofed it. Then he installed its doors, bolts, and bars. He also made repairs to the wall of the pool of Shelah near the king's garden, as far as the stairs that descended from the city of David. After him, Nehemiah, son of Azbuk, not the Nehemiah, the author of the book. Okay, different Nehemiah. Ruler over half the district of Beth Zur, made repairs up to a point opposite the tombs of David, as far as the artificial pool and the house of the warriors. Next to him, the Levites made repairs under Rahum, son of Bani. Besides him, Hashabiah, ruler over half the district of Keilah, made repairs for his district. After him, their fellow Levites made repairs under Benui, son of Henadad, ruler over half the district of Keilah. Next to him, Ezer, son of Jeshua, ruler over Mizpah, made repairs to another section opposite the ascent to the armory at the angle. After him, Baruch, son of Zabai, diligently repaired another section from the angle to the door of the house of Eliashib the high priest. Beside him, Meremoth, son of Uriah, son of Hakaz, made repairs to another section from the door of Eliashib's house to the end of his house. And next to him, the priests from the surrounding area made repairs. After them, Benjamin and Hashub made repairs opposite their house. Beside them, Azariah, son of Messiah, son of Ananiah, made repairs beside his house. After him, Benui, son of Hanadad, made repairs to another section from the house of Azariah to the angle and the corner. Palal, son of Uzi, they make guns, made repairs opposite the angle and tower that juts out from the upper palace of the king by the courtyard of the guard. Beside him, Pedaiah, son of Parash, and the temple servants living in Ophel, made repairs opposite the water gate toward the east and the tower that juts out. Next to him, the Tekoites made repairs to another section from a point opposite the great tower that juts out as far as the wall of Ophel. Each of the priests made repairs above the horse gate, each opposite his own house. After them, Zadok, son of Immer, made repairs opposite his house. And beside him, Shemaiah, son of Shechaniah, guard of the east gate, made repairs. Next to him, Hananiah, son of Shelmiah, and Hanun, the sixth son of Zelophh, made repairs to another section. After them, Meshullam, son of Berechiah, made repairs opposite his room. Next to him, Malchijah, one of the goldsmiths, made repairs to the house of the temple service and the merchants opposite the inspection gate as far as the upper room of the corner. The goldsmiths and merchants made repairs between the upper room of the corner and the sheep gate. Isn't that inspiring? Just wait till chapter 7. Okay. Here's the thing about this group, okay, about these groups, about this chapter. What we can learn from this list of names are 6 qualities of servanthood. Doesn't that sound great? From a list of names, we can glean wisdom for 6 qualities of servanthood. But before we hit those, I just want you to notice something. Who's writing this book? Nehemiah. Okay, and he's writing out all these names. Okay, he's writing these all out. And this book, Nehemiah, is like his memoirs. Okay, that's what this is. This is his memoirs. It's like a journal. It's like a diary. Okay, he's writing these out. And the Holy Spirit is coming upon him, making sure that everything he writes is the Word of God. And it's also Nehemiah's memoirs. So he's writing these out, which means that each of these names he's writing down, he's praying for them. He's praying for them. And these people, think about this. These people, what was their job at the walls and these gates? What were they doing? Moving rocks. These people made the Bible for moving rocks. I mean, think about that. You think everybody that makes the Bible, these must be great heroes. They must be David slaying Goliaths. They must be Shadrach, Meshach, and Benny just kneeling, not kneeling at the big statue. The Bible's filled with heroes. Here's a list of names for people who moved rocks. Okay, God saw and found that people moving rocks like this so important that they made the Bible. They made the Bible. Next time you start thinking that whatever job you're working at or whatever job you just don't want to be doing, stop and realize that these people made the Bibles for moving a stone, that God cares about the smallest task. He cares and concerned about the smallest job, and whatever it is you do matters. And I know we live in a society that says that we have to have a certain job, we have to achieve to a certain point, and we're not going to take anything but that. And what a load of tripe. When God cares about everything, and whatever you do can be important in the eyes of God. So don't sit there and say, I'm not going to do anything unless it's this one job. No, do whatever you can do, whatever it is. God cares about all of it, every single one. And it's impressive that all these people did not work alone. People worked next to them. They worked with them. They worked under them. They worked over them. There's supervisors. There's non-supervisors, the employees underneath. There's all these people that are working together, and none of them worked alone. And what's important is to begin for a church that's trying to restart and trying to plant and all that good stuff, is that we need to realize that the size of the team is in proportion to the size of the tasks. Okay, if we know we have a big task ahead of us, that means it's going to involve as many people as possible. The bigger the task, the more people needed. And if you say, wow, we got this huge task and we don't got enough people, you know what that means? That means there's no room for anyone to be sitting down. That means for a church to do it, we all have got to do it together. Because if we have a task greater than our team, then that means that we need every hand on deck. We cannot begin to afford at all for the mission for anyone to be a couch potato. The miser section. We need people to be working together. Okay? Nehemiah could have. Here's what he could have done. Nehemiah could have just begun working all by himself. I mean, if you were to play this out in modern day America, he could have just started working. Saw all the ruins there and went, someone really ought to do something about this. Well, I guess it'll be me. Reaches over, grabs a rock and puts it up. Finds a broken rock, moves it to a pile, and he just starts working. And after a while, maybe he'll start getting upset, mad, frustrated, because no one's helping. And then he's like just wondering, why won't people just assist? And if they did assist and start chipping in, maybe he might be like, no, don't do it that way. Don't do it that way. You have to do it like, let me just, you know what? It's not like that. Let's listen to the words I'm saying. And they could have been an interesting little, have you ever heard something like that happen in churches? Right, where someone's cleaning a room, madder than a hornet because no one's chipping in. And when somebody starts chipping in, they're getting mad as a hornet at them because they're not putting it where it belongs. Right? Houses and families are like that sometimes. I've seen wives and husbands have that discussion where the wife's like cleaning up something and she goes, why won't you help me? Husband goes, fine, I'll help you. I mean, put this away. It doesn't go there. Well, where does it go? It goes over. Do I have to do everything? Apparently. You know? And on it goes. And right? That's what could have happened. Okay? And let me challenge that this is what happens often in homes today. This is what happens often in churches today. But Nehemiah does not fall into that little pit. He does not fall into that rut. First, what he does is he looks over and assesses the whole situation. And then he says, I need help. I'm going to recruit. And then he assigns them tasks. I want you to work from here to here. Don't just work at one part of this wall, one part of that wall, and one part of the gate over there. I want you to work from here to here. Do the whole thing. Here's what it's like. And he gave a quick little instructions. Rebuild this wall, rebuild the gate. It's interesting that every now and then you got this instructions like this person also built the rooftop, or this person also did the bars and did the walls and did the gates and the frames. And you get different details from time to time because Nehemiah gave them different instructions. So he wasn't this assuming that people would just come in and help. They would just somehow read his mind. You know, there's this show that's getting ready to come off the air now. It's called How I Met Your Mother. Has you ever watched that? Every now and then, in like the early parts of the season, they try to do this mind reading thing. They're like, come on, look at my face and read my mind. You hear their thoughts going, read my mind. And the other person's like, hi. You're like, oh, you're reading my mind? Yes, I am. Okay, don't open the present. Okay, you know, and just look at my eyes, see what I'm doing, don't open, you know, and they try to, and it doesn't work. And it doesn't work. You know, you have to voice it out. You have to be instructive about it. But don't just do it alone. Recruit people and work together at it. Another thing that's going on, I find this interesting. If you look at verse 1 of chapter 3, who's the first person mentioned to do the work of reconstruction? Eliashib, the high priest. I love that. Here is the highest guy in Israel, the high priest, the religious pope, if you will. Okay, he is the highest guy in Israel. And what's he doing? One of the lowest jobs. Right? He's moving rocks. One of the highest guys in Israel. He is of special lineage. He is of the Levite tribe. He is of the descendants of Aaron. He is able to qualify for the high priest. He went through training. He went through schooling. He has on fancy clothes. He has on the breastplates and all this stuff. He is the high priest. And he is setting it aside to bend down and pick up rocks. Bends down and picks up rocks. In other words, if you want to see something done, start doing it yourself. Show it to be done. Be what you want to see. Sometimes when I share different things that my wife and I are involved with and what we're doing, it's not meant to at all brag that we're doing this and we're doing that and we're involved in this group and that group. It's me trying to show you how to get involved and how it can be done and that it can be done. One of the things my wife and I are getting ready to work on pretty soon, we're trying to figure out how to infiltrate the artistic community of Grand Rapids and meet people from our city here. And we are recently got invited to be part of the movie being shot in Grand Rapids that is starring Jason Segel and Jesse Eisenberg. And we were supposed to shoot with them and meet a whole bunch of the other extras from the city on Friday, but they did a casting cut, and we got X'd. And then come to find out they shot till 5 a.m., so I was glad not to be there. But we're going to be shooting in March. And we're all go. We're on the list. We're ready to go. We're going to be shooting in March, and we're going to be meeting all these other extras from Grand Rapids. And we're going to be there for hours and hours and eating. They got food tables and fruit trays and veggie trays and all this time to kind of have some socializing. And it's going to give us ample opportunity because everybody wants to be around Jason Segel, so they're not leaving. So they're not going to run away from our questions. It's going to be great. We have a great time to be able to talk with people and build relationships with people. See, this is, you can do stuff and get involved. And so I share stuff like that, not to say, hey, I'm going to be in a movie. I share that to say, hey, I'm trying to talk to people. This is how you do it. You can get involved in things. It's possible. You don't have to do that exact same thing, but you can do something like that. Get involved in something. Join a bowling team. Take up dancing lessons. Go do something somewhere outside of your home, or invite people into your home, something that you can reach out. If you say, hey, the church needs to have more people in it, and more people need to come to Christ, awesome. Then start inviting. Then start sharing. You look around and you say, man, we need to fill up these chairs. Okay, great. Fill them up. Lead by example. Be what you want to see. And that's what this high priest is doing. And the fact that this high priest, the highest in Israel, stooping low to pick up rocks, gives us our third one as well. To understand that no work is beneath you. We need to appreciate and accept that no work is beneath us. And I can honestly say I've been able to appreciate this. I struggle with this one sometimes because I load luggage at a bus station. Okay, and it's a good job. I like the job. It's a pain in the rear job. And every now and then I get like pride around there. I start going, man, I'm going to be graduating in like 8 months with my doctorate degree, and I'm loading luggage. And every time that thought comes into my head, you know what I tell myself? Eliashib. That's what I do. I yell at myself, Eliashib. Who's Eliashib? The high priest who moved rocks. So I can be a doctorate person, educated, who can move luggage. And that's appropriate. And God looks upon it with pleasure. And God appreciates it. And I need to appreciate it. Because there are people that need help with their bags. Especially when I run across single moms. And they have kids. And they're having a hard time, and they're trying to get away from an abusive boyfriend, and they're trying to get on the bus, and they got bags, and they can't carry the baby and the diaper bag, and also their luggage, and they're just struggling with it. And if I wasn't there, who would carry their bags for her? So that's the thing. We have to be willing to serve and realize that no job is beneath us. I absolutely love verse 8. If you look over at verse 8, you find out that there's perfumers building the wall. These perfumers, those are the ones that are at Macy's that spritz at you. Okay, the Dijon for men. And they say it so masculinely. I get scared of Macy's. I come out smelling like a factory. Dijon for men. And no. No. But that's perfumers. And what are they doing? Moving rocks. You think that's outside the expertise of a perfumer? Just a little bit, isn't it? Okay, so here's perfumers. They know about smells and fragrances. Could you imagine a perfumer working with rocks? Woo, baby! That one's raunchy. Oh, that's interesting. That's like cocoa. Ooh, I could grind this. Ooh. Oh, man, that was on the south end of a northbound horse. I tell you, that's, and then who knows what the perfumers were like as they're working, right? They're definitely working out of their expertise. And here's the thing. The perfumers did not say, hey, that's not my field. The perfumers didn't say, hey, that's not my training. Hey, that's not where I prefer working. I like glass jars. I like leather pouches. I don't like rocks. I mean, I don't have calluses. I might, they didn't say that. They didn't complain about that. They showed up and they said, let's work. What needs to be done? Well, those rocks need to be moved over there. Okay, I'll do it. And maybe the perfumers, because they worked with perfumes all the time, maybe their arms weren't that strong, and so people walk around with big old rocks, and there's a perfumer going, oh, it's so heavy. Who knows what it was like. But they worked. Okay? They worked, and they worked hard. And they didn't complain. They didn't compare themselves. They said, what needs to be done, and what can I do to help? And man, I would have said some of us would have a servant heart like that. Rather than saying it's outside of my comfort zone, I'm not going to do that. I'm not skilled that way. I'm not trained that way. I'm not able to handle it like that. I can't. That it would be, what needs to be done? Well, we need to talk to people. Okay, how can I do that? Help me do that. I struggle with it. I want to help. If that's what needs to be done, then I'll do it, but help me. Help me. I don't know how. I don't know how to do it well. Which brings us to the fourth one, that we need to train the called, not just call the trained. We need to train the called, not just call the trained. Now, I have to be careful with this. When we are looking at, if a church decides that they need to get to the point that they're looking for a new worship leader, or they're working for a new pastor, or whatever the case may be, churches need to be aware that they need to hire somebody who is trained. It is not the job of the church to train the head leadership that's called there. The goal is that if a person is called, they get trained. It says train the called. They get trained, then they go into head leadership. For everybody else in the servant position, if they are called to do a task, then great. We're calling out. And if you are moved to do it, then come do it. If you don't know how to do it, we will train you. We're not only going to hire masonry workers. We're going to let everybody, goldsmiths, perfumers, high priest people, everybody do the task. And we will train the called. We're not just going to call the trained. So the moment you think that you don't have the skills, you don't have the abilities, that is not an excuse. If there's a job that needs to be done, come and do it. And if you don't know how, we will teach you. We will train you, because that is the goal, is to train. Another verse I absolutely love is verse 12. Verse 12, if you were to kind of step back and look at it a little bit, beside him, Shallum, son of Helahesh, ruler over half the district of Jerusalem, made repairs. He and, how does verse 12 end? His daughters. Here's the guy that contracted out his daughters. Okay. He's like, hey, there's work to be done. Guess what? I got daughters. I don't know about you, but when I think of construction work and I think of moving heavy rocks and masonry, I don't think of women. That's not where my mind instantly goes. I know people might say, well, that's sexist, that's whatever. Well, you know what? Whenever you watch a movie and the stereotype is there of somebody is working with heavy machinery and another person walks by, who is it that's working and who is it that's walking and who's whistling at whom? Okay? That's just the norm. I understand that there are female masons. I understand there's female workers, but that is not the norm. Okay? The average guy does not have his wife give birth to a girl and hold her up and go, I have a daughter. She will be a great construction worker. That's not what comes out of the mind of a dad. Okay? I don't look at my daughter and think to myself that she's going to be some weightlifting bodybuilder. She can kick like Jean-Claude Van Damme, but that's beside the point. I have different thoughts. So a guy, when he says, I see rocks, they need to be moved, I got daughters. Unless they're named Bertha, and unless they are husky women, this is really odd. And I love that he does it, because what he does is, literally, he makes the work. He makes, if you will, the ministry a family affair. He just doesn't do it himself. He makes it a family affair. When I go sometimes to visit Joe and Norma, one of our current shut-ins, she's a shut-in. He tends to be with her because she's very, very old, very frail, and he's trying to take care of her, so they don't get out a lot. So when I go to visit, I don't tend to go just by myself, though I have gone just by myself several times. I really like to bring my wife and my 2 kids, my daughter and my son, with me. And what we do is when we get there and we set up and we start talking a little bit, Ziva starts getting restless, as a daughter will. That's 3 years old. And he has this like island. It's just a living room, and then there's the kitchen, and there's this wall that has full circle access. And whenever there's a circle access in the room, she will run it. Like a race car driver. You just running around it. And she'll just go full speed. And she'll go, "Daddy, catch me, and chase me." And then she'll grab something and say, "Daddy, see my blankie? Come catch my blankie." And she'll take off running with it, right? And so what will I do? I'll start running with her. Yeah, at an old person's house. We're running around. I'm chasing my daughter for a minute. Now sit down, talk some more, and then we run around a little bit more. And what I'm doing is I'm teaching her ministry up front. 3 years old, I'm teaching her, we go and we visit people. I'm teaching her, we go to people's houses and we talk with them and we care for them and we love on them and we pray with them and we pray for them. I make it a family affair. So can you. So can you. If you're living with someone and you have a family, you can make ministry a family affair. Another way of looking at it would be this: to serve with and even within your home. In verses 10, 23, and also 28 through 30, we find a lot of people working either in their homes, around their homes, or across the street from their homes. A lot of people at the walls that are rebuilding and gates that are being rebuilt. They're not traveling very far. They're just working right there by their house, working at or near or across the street from their home. So working from your home is not a bad thing. Doing ministry in your home is not a bad thing. It can show hospitality. You can build tighter relationships. You can be able to really be more of an open book. Here's the advantage. I believe that every Christian should serve with and within their home. Because here's the thing. It puts you in check right away. Because when somebody comes over, what are you trying to hide? What mess are you trying to clean up right away? And it puts your life in check. Showing you where you're being lazy. Showing what things, if you're trying to hide, should you even have it in the first place? I don't want them to know I watched this movie. Well, why not? Is it a bad movie? If it's not, then why hide it? And if it is, why do you have it? I don't want them to see these magazines. Well, then maybe you shouldn't have them. It's a great checkpoint. Why can't I have people come to my home? It's just too dirty. Well, that shows that your life is dirty then. You need to clean up. Why can't people have everything just in disarray? I just don't have it put. Then get it in array. Because your home is given to you by God. Yes, you're paying for it. But God gave you the job. He gave you the income. He gave you the ability to live there. Serve with it. Don't just use it to hide. Serve with it. That's what it's for. Not just for you to sleep at night, but to do ministry in and around. And did you guys happen to notice also verse 5? When we were reading through the list, there were some nobles who did not lift a finger. Did you catch that? That they did not lift a finger to do the work. All they wanted to do was to reap the benefits from the work being done. They didn't want to lift a finger. They didn't want to help. And here's the thing. There's always going to be lazy workers. Anybody ever work at a job where somebody was not doing their fair share of the job? Maybe you're working on the line, you look over and somebody's not working as fast as you are, and they're not working as fast as the rest of the team, and you're just like, oh, man. I hope they don't get promoted, and sometimes they do just to get them away from that because they're such a bad worker. But here's the thing. When it comes to lazy workers, they exist. And notice that nobody that we have written out here in this text, nobody tried to persuade them otherwise. Isn't that interesting? The nobles did not lift a finger. Notice first that they got noticed. Lazy workers always get noticed. You might not think that they do, but they always get noticed. As a person who's been in management for many, many years, management at movie theaters, management at restaurants, management all the places I've been at, even producer at a TV station, I've done lots of different jobs. I know lazy workers. I always saw them. Though no one ever knew that they got noticed, they get noticed. Lazy workers always do. Therefore, you do not have to waste your time trying to get them found out. You do not have to waste your time trying to persuade them otherwise. If a mule isn't going to do something, it's not going to do it. Why waste time trying to make a mule do something it doesn't want to do? Okay? Or a way of looking at it would be this. Don't complain, don't compare, just serve. Don't complain, don't compare, just serve. I love the fact that nobody working on the wall, we're all saying, they aren't doing their job, they aren't doing their, I'm not going to if they're not going to. Why should I have to if they get to do whatever? Why should I have to if they get to? Why do I need to be doing it this way? My friends aren't, ever heard people use those type of arguments? My friends get to do it. Why do I have to work when they don't have to? Why do they? And they make this comparison, and they complain, and they gripe, and they groan. And here we can learn to just serve. Don't complain. Don't compare. Just serve. The wall needs to be built. Restoration has to happen. Complaining isn't going to do it. Just serve. Get up and serve it. I want you to notice, these are the 6 principles. Hopefully you wrote them down. Look them over briefly. I want you to notice something they all have in common. Humility. They all are about humility and sacrifice. Having a teachable spirit. Not coming in saying, I know all, I can do all, don't tell me, I got it figured out. No arrogance, no pride, all humility. All love for God, all love for people. That's what we find in these qualities. That's what we're finding happening in Nehemiah, is a group, a nation of people coming together, saying we're tired of being in exile, we're tired of being disobedient, we want to follow God, and if God says build, then we're going to build. If God says restore, then we're going to restore. It's out of my comfort zone, it's out of my skill set, it's out of my know-how, it's going to be a lot of work, and I'm just tired, it's been a long month, long year, long life, but I'm going to work it, because God says to work it. So I'm doing it. That's a humble, dedicated, teachable spirit. That's what Israel has. That's what the church needs. Let me just challenge you when you go home today to ask yourself, what is it going to cost you personally to help us reach various neighborhoods for the kingdom of God? What is it going to cost you personally? And are you willing to accept that cost? Willing to do it? Are you willing to be humble enough, dedicated enough to do it? Let's have a word of prayer.